Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. And I want to welcome you here to a show, a conversation, a resource that is designed to give you as a man everything that you need to step up as let me see if I can say that correctly, a husband, father, business owner, and community leader. Today, we're going to be talking about this concept that I've been addressing for the past 7 years now, called the integrity gap. And I only know what that is, and to some degree know how to bridge and close that integrity gap, because it's something I've had to work on in my own life so much. So I'm going to get into that in just a minute. Two very quick announcements. Number one, our Battle Ready program. It's a free program that you can sign up for. It's going to be a series of emails over 30 days, and it's going to give you my exact strategy that I've used in my own personal life to close my integrity gap with my spirituality, with my wife and my children, with my business, and every other health, every facet of life. And it's what allows me to accomplish what I've been able to accomplish over the past 7 years. So if you feel like there's some room for improvement, check it out, orderofman.com/battle ready. The only other thing that I would suggest to you today is if you have a son between the ages of 8 to 15, and you want to usher him into manhood, at least get the tools and resources, conversations, experiences that you need and want to usher him into manhood, consider our legacy event, which is going to be held this year, September 22nd through the 25th. You can go to orderofman.com/legacy to watch a video from our last experience and see what it is that we're doing. All right, guys, let's talk about this integrity gap. Let me tell you what it is first. The integrity gap is the gap or the distance between how you view yourself ideally as a man and the work that you're actually doing to get you there. And in my own personal experience, I found that the greatest times of despair and desperation and anxiety and depression and even suicidal thoughts in men that I've talked with comes when there's a huge disparity between how they view themselves ideally and the work they're doing to get there. In this week's Ask Me Anything, somebody was suggesting that their wife and him were having struggles in their marriage because he suffered from a confidence problem. Guys, those of you who are lacking confidence to some degree, and this is how the integrity gap manifests itself, you're not suffering from a confidence problem. You're suffering from an integrity problem. And I know that to be 100% true because I know in my own life as I've consciously worked to narrow the gap between how I view myself, ideally, and the work I'm doing to get there, my confidence naturally increases and naturally improves and gets better. So if you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm just not confident in myself, I'm not confident in my abilities, I'm uneasy, I'm unsure of myself, I have all these feelings of inadequacies, then I would suggest to you that confidence isn't your issue. The integrity gap is your issue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the rest of the time today talking with you about how you can close that gap, because it's very, very important that you do. Now, how do you know if you're out of integrity? Well, very simply, you're not producing the results that you desire. If, for example, you want to be 10% body fat, and you're 25 or 30 or more percent body fat, then you're out of integrity. Now you might say, well, Ryan, I'm working on it. And in that case, that's true. It's going to take you some time from where you are now to get to, in this example, 10% body fat. So as long as you're on the path, you're actively working to close that gap. If you're not producing the results that you want at work, or you're not making the kind of income that you'd like to, there's an integrity issue. And again, this is true because those men who do the work over time, not immediately, it's not like if you get off the couch and do everything, knock it out of the park today, you're closing the gap. No, it takes time. We're going to address some of that. But the guys who are actively walking the walk, they're going to make more money, inevitably. The guys who are doing healthy things like eating correctly and working out and training and exercising, they're going to lose weight. The guys that are engaged with their wives and having conversations and listening and leading well are going to have a deep, powerfully connected, intimate relationship with their wife. It's not a mystery. I get so sick of hearing from guys who are like, oh, that guy, he's lucky. And I heard another guy, even in our Iron Council, say something along the lines of, I think he said, he was referring to Andy Frisella because Andy was a guest on our podcast. And he said, well, it's easy for Andy to say X, Y, and Z. And I can't exactly remember the scenario, but that's a problem. It's not, how do you know it's easy for somebody to say something? The only reason you're saying that is because that person is likely experiencing the results of bridging the gap between how they view themselves ideally and the work they're actually doing. Andy's a great example. When I met Andy Frisella 6 or 7 years ago, he was roughly 350 pounds. And I could see it when I met him. I could see the lack of confidence. I could see that the assertiveness wasn't quite there to the degree that it is today. From the outside looking in, except for the weight, it seemed like he had everything figured out. But I could tell there was a struggle internally, and rightfully so. That makes sense. I've also been there myself. Now, over the past 6 to 7 years, you clearly have seen what Andy's done for himself, for his family, for his business, for his colleagues and coworkers and employees. And he's lost roughly 100 pounds. He looks incredible. And he's, 7 years older. That's bridging the integrity gap. And so when I meet Andy and we connect like we often do a couple, 2 or 3 times a year, I can see a difference in him. And it's not just the physical difference, it's the mentality. It's the way he presents himself. It's the way that he carries himself, because he's bridged that integrity gap. So again, how do you know if you're out of integrity? You're not producing the results that you want, or at a minimum, you're not moving in the right direction. If you're $100,000 in debt, it's probably going to take you 2, 3, 5, 10 years to get out from under that debt. But if you're actively working on it, you're going to carry yourself different and you're bridging this gap. So let's talk about this framework. I work really, really well with frameworks. I was introduced years and years ago to a framework called the OODA loop, which is an acronym created by Air Force Colonel John Boyd. He identified this as a framework to operate your life. And I think this is a great way to bridge this integrity gap. So I'll get to the OODA loop, and then I'm going to share with you 5 key little strategies or tips that you can implement in your life to ensure that you stay the course, that you maintain the course, and you maximize your results by bridging or closing this integrity gap. So let's talk about the OODA loop. OODA is an acronym. O stands for observe. The next O is orient. The next is D, decide. And then the fourth A is to act. So observe, orient, decide, act. Okay. So let's break each one of those down. The OODA loop. O, observe. You actually have to spend time with yourself, by yourself, thinking about the results that you're producing in your life. If you aren't willing to look at that, to take a look in the mirror, to spend time journaling, to spend some time self-reflecting, even if it's a walk in the morning or the evening, and really trying to observe what's going wrong in your life, man, there's nothing that's going to change. So don't you dare go to somebody else and say, man, I'm just not producing results. Other guys have it all figured out. Everybody else is so lucky and I just can't get it figured out. Well, of course, because you haven't really observed what's actually going on. We think about it like this, that guys are burying their heads in the sand. And that's exactly what millions and millions of men do. And then they have the audacity to complain about the lack of results that they're producing in their lives. Well, of course you have a lack of results. You have no idea what's going on in your life. So be truthful, be honest, be completely honest. If you're a screw up, you have to admit you're a screw up. If you're an alcoholic, you have to admit you're an alcoholic. If you're a workaholic and you don't spend any time with your family, you have to be willing to admit that. If you're 100 pounds overweight, you have to be willing to admit that. It isn't a pity party. It isn't designed to throw you into this perpetual state of despair. It's the starting point, and it has to be from a foundation of truth. Most of us have inflated egos, and we believe that we're better than we are, that we're producing better results than we probably are, and that we have more trust and credibility and authority with others than we actually do. So the first step is to observe. Second, orient. Now that you know what's going on, at least you're looking at it from a truthful perspective. Maybe for the first time in your life, you need to orient yourself. I kind of look at this as a triangulation. If you want to figure out where you are, you can always triangulate other points. And it's the same thing here. When you want to orient yourself, you need to triangulate. And the first thing you need to do is you need to start measuring something. So if you're overweight and you know it's gotten out of hand, then you actually need to jump on the scale, or you need to have your body fat percentage measured, and you need to write it down in an app, on a piece of paper, something. You need to orient yourself. Okay, I'm 5'10", I'm 275 pounds. I should be 200 pounds. So therefore, I'm 75 pounds overweight. Congratulations, you're actually on the path. But if you're not willing to get on the scale, you're not. If you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I have been a mess up, a screw up with my finances, and I'm so frustrated with it, then you actually have to get onto your bank account statements, and you need to see what that bank account says. You need to compile a list of all the credit card debts and the personal loans and the medical bills, and you actually need to stare at it. And you look at it and you think, okay, well, I'm $78,000 in debt. That sucks. But at least you've oriented yourself to the problem. I'm $78,000 in debt. I don't want to be in any debt. So I know I have $78,000 to pay off. It seems daunting at times, and sometimes it even seems insurmountable, but it isn't. We're going to talk more about that. If you're struggling in your marriage, you probably ought to sit down with your wife and have a real heart-to-heart about your guys' relationship and how she views you, how she sees you as a father, how she views you as a husband, what she thinks about your sex life, what she thinks about your work performance. And guys, we don't want to do this, but you have to orient yourself to the problem, because what that does is once you triangulate where you're at, you can start coming up with a bearing. And there might be different ways of going about doing different things depending on the scenario, but at least give yourself some options. I could go this way, I could go that way, I could go that way, because the next point is the decision. Now I have to decide. So I've observed what's going on. I know the problem. I've oriented myself. I know what I want to accomplish. And now I have to make a decision about how to do it. So if I'm 75 pounds overweight, are you just going to cut out processed sugars? That might work to some degree, but maybe it's not as much as you'd like. Are you going to hire a nutritionist? Are you going to hire a coach? What are you going to do when things go wrong? What are you going to do when you're tempted to overeat or to not go work out? Are you going to hire a personal coach? Are you going to go to a big box gym? Are you going to do CrossFit? Are you going to do jiu-jitsu? Are you going to work out at home? What exactly are you going to do? Because now you start making the decisions of what's best. And if you've never really made these decisions, sometimes that can be pretty challenging, because we get stuck in this paralysis by analysis, where there's so many different options. It's like, I don't know. And you just throw up your hands. Guys, just pick one. So many men seem to believe that just because you pick a course of action, that you have to currently maintain that course of action indefinitely. This is the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. Then it loops around. Now you observe again, because maybe you did make a decision to cut out processed sugars, and now you're realizing, you know what, that actually is not working because I don't really have the discipline to do this yet. Then maybe you need to hire a coach. Maybe you need to enlist your wife so she's not buying junk food, or your kids, so you don't have a bunch of fruit snacks or whatever in the pantry. So observe, orient, decide. Now you're making your decisions, and you're not pinned to that decision forever. Just make a decision. And the fourth component is act. Get to work. Do it. Formulate the plan. Execute the plan. Now, I would suggest to you, and this goes back to what I was saying with our Battle Ready program, I work in 90-day blocks. So I'm going to make decisions and act on those decisions in 90-day windows. It's a 12-week battle planner is what we call it. And then at the end, actually periodically through that, I'm going to be observing and seeing what's going on. We call it our after action review. Is this working? Yes. Great. Continue the course of action. Or yes, it's working, but it's not working as efficiently as I would like. Okay, maybe we need to double down, or maybe we need to shift tactics. Maybe it's not working. Okay, well, I want to know that too. Again, we need to operate from reality, from truth. I want to know it's not working, so I have to pivot and make adjustments. Guys, it's a very, very simple framework. If you have the process in place to do it, every single day. And I personally do. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it. I've got this. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is our 12-week battle planner. I've got notepads everywhere. I've got a system of accountability in the Iron Council. There's guys that report to me. There's guys I report to. I put a lot of these different things in place in order to make sure that I'm following through on this OODA loop and closing the integrity gap that honestly exists in my own life. It's always going to be there to some degree. And sometimes it's going to be in certain areas of life and not others, and vice versa. But my integrity gap is much narrower than it has been in the past. And that's why I'm sure of myself. That's why I'm confident in myself. And that's also why I'm producing the results that I am in my life. Now, guys, let me end by giving you 5 tips that are going to help supercharge your ability to bridge this gap. Number 1 is consistency is key. Consistency is key. You can't get off the couch and for the next week, just crush it. No processed sugars, no binge eating, no alcohol, no food after 7 or 8 o'clock, working out an hour every single day, getting plenty of sleep, getting plenty of water, avoiding unnecessary stress. And you crush it for a week and you're like, all right, I'm good now. No, you're not good, because you spent 10 to 20 years getting you to a point where you are now 100 pounds overweight. 1 week ain't going to cut it. Plant your flag, guys. Come hell or high water, you're going to do this. And you should get very, very infatuated, almost obsessed with the process of improvement, not necessarily the result. Now, we're going to measure the result. We have to, because we need to know that what we're doing is working or not working and make our pivots. But once we know something is working, or once we've hired somebody even that has helped us, that helps us know we're on the right path, then we have to put our faith in that program, that system, and let it work its magic. Let it brew. Let it give it time to compound the returns. If you do it for a week or even a month, it's just not enough. Consistency is key. Number 2, and I alluded to this, you have to have people in your corner, right? Because if you're doing something new, let's say you're starting a new business and you want to blow this business up. And so you go at it alone and you start this podcast or this leadership company or this photography business, and you're doing everything, but it's just not working. Well, maybe it's not working because you're not doing the right things. But if you've never done it before, how would you know if you're doing the right things or not? You won't. So it's also beneficial to have mentors and instructors, coaches, credible sources of information who can come in and say, look, Ryan, I know this doesn't sound right, but here's what you need to do. I know that you're not experiencing the results that you want to experience right now, but I can guarantee and assure you that this works, but it just takes time. And those mentors and coaches will keep you in the game when it's very easy for us to fall out of the game because we don't experience the results as quickly as we would have liked. But you also have to have people who are there in your corner who are supporting you and cheering you on and rooting for you and telling you good job and changing their behavior as a natural result of the way that you're changing your behavior. You know, if I start to change my behavior as a father and I become more engaged with my children, they're going to positively respond to that. Maybe not overnight. So in some cases they will, but maybe not overnight. But over the long haul, you're going to start to see those changes. And then that's going to be fuel for you to continue down the course of action that you want to continue. So have coaches, have mentors, have instructors, direct, indirect, sign up for courses, go to conferences, surround yourself with good people, go where the good people are. A lot of guys ask me, oh, you know, I'm trying to find men in my town, or I'm trying to date and I don't know where to find good women. You just go where the good people are. Okay. They're not at the bar. They're not, you know, dinking around doing who knows what. They're at church. They're at business functions. They're working at businesses. They're in the nicer parts of town and they're eating lunch together. Like they're going on to like seminars and events. This is not rocket science. You know where they are. You just have to go where they are. And the cool thing about it is you don't even really have to come with a lot of value anymore. You just pay your ticket price. Now, what you do once you get in the doors is up to you. And we can talk more about that later, but it's very easy to go to a business luncheon or go to some event for a business function. It's going to cost you $500, let's say, for a 3-day event. And you're in. They're all there. Literally thousands of people who are high caliber people who want to improve themselves. That's where you go. Number 3, celebrate your incremental wins. Again, we'll go back to the 75 pounds or 100 pounds overweight. Man, if you start kicking butt this week and you lose 2 pounds or 3 pounds, or maybe even 5 pounds, it might be easy to be discouraged because you didn't lose 10, you didn't lose 20, but you know what? You lost 2. That's better than you were last week. And you should celebrate that. Now, I'm not saying that you should throw a party and invite everybody over and then let your goals and objectives go to hell. Like, no, it doesn't need to be extravagant. You don't need to buy yourself anything. You just need to pat yourself on the back, literally and figuratively, if you need to. Just, hey, Ryan, good job. Nobody saw it. Nobody's complimented you yet on losing that weight, but you did it. You're 2 pounds lighter. And that's your new reality. Now you observe again. Okay, well, look, I'm not 100 pounds overweight. I'm 97 pounds overweight. That's awesome. Make a chart if you need to and fill it up or take things off, whatever you need to do to celebrate the incremental wins that you will experience, because that is fuel that's going to keep you going. And I know people say, oh, motivation is bullcrap and discipline's where it's at. And I understand the sentiment. I think discipline is crucial, obviously, but I'm not going to tell you motivation's bullcrap. Why would I say that? If you watch a movie today and it inspires you to act differently in a positive way, you're telling me that's bullcrap? If you've got a calendar and you want to do something for 30 days, like cut out alcohol for 30 days, and you put an X on the day that you did, and then the X on the next day and the next day and so on. And that motivates you, that just putting a little X through there, like you did it. If that's what motivates you, you're telling me that's bullcrap? No, that's powerful if you use it correctly. So get motivated and get that fuel by those small incremental wins. Number 4 and 5, a little different on each of these, because I think this is something most people would overlook. But if you really want to get good at something, start serving other people. So let's take that weight thing. You want to lose weight. Well, why don't you enlist 5 people and start helping them? Now you might say, well, Ryan, I'm 100 pounds overweight. Who am I to help other people? I'm not saying you have to be an imposter. I'm not saying you have to tell them you're the epitome of health, but you can help them by being accountable. So if you've got a neighbor, Joe, and he's like, yeah, man, I've been wanting to lose weight, or a guy at church is like, yeah, I really need to quit drinking alcohol. And you're like, well, I do too. Why don't we be accountability partners? Why don't we do it together? And then you send a Joe a message and you're like, hey, Joe, how you doing, man? It's nighttime. It's the weekend. I know you guys are having a barbecue. Like, hey, put that booze down. You got this, brother. We got this. We're doing this. Okay. That's how you serve other people. And through your service to other people, you will want to be in integrity, because you can't, if you're a good man, and I think most of us are, at least we're trying to be, then you can't hold those two conflicting ideas in your mind. The idea that you're going to go tell somebody else to put down the booze, or tell somebody else to improve their lives, and you're doing the exact same thing. It's very difficult to hold those two actions in the same environment. And so serving other people is going to open you up to resources. It's going to help you hold people accountable. You're going to feel good about it. You're going to be more compelled to do what you want to do, and you're all going to be better off. And that's really what it is to be a man, is your ability to lead and serve others effectively. And the more you do that, the more capable of doing it you become, which then allows you to serve and lead in even a greater capacity. It's a beautiful cycle. And guys, the last point I want to make here is that we evolve. We evolve, because what got you from 100 pounds overweight to 20 pounds overweight, let's say you've been doing this for 6-8 months, and now you're 20 pounds overweight. You've got to evolve, because what you did to lose that first 80 pounds is probably not going to cut it for the other 20. If you're starting a business and you want to go from 0 revenue to $50,000 in revenue, there's some things that you can do today that will help you get to that point. But when you hit that in a year, let's say, if you say, well, now I want to get to 6 figures, the thing that's going to take you from from 5 figures to 6 figures, it's different. There's different tactics. There's different strategies. Now there's some fundamentals that are always going to be appropriate and apply, but there's different things that you need to do. And so we need to constantly be evolving. And that's why it's called the OODA loop, is because once something's working and it's worked, you notice that you'll start to plateau. Then you need to observe again and figure out, what else can I do to ramp up these results? How can I make myself more effective, more efficient? Give you an example. If you're starting a consulting business and you're charging $100 an hour for your time, well, that might get you to that $50,000 mark, or maybe depending on how many clients you have, it might get you to the 6-figure mark. I don't know. But if you're like, well, I want to make more money. Well, really, there's only a couple of ways to do it. Number one is charge more for your time. Instead of 100, now you're going to charge 200. You just doubled your income. Or instead of having one client, now you have 2 clients at the same rate, doubled your income. But how do you do that? Well, you need to add more value. You need to be more valuable. So you have to evolve. If you're coaching people and it's $100 an hour, what are you learning? What are you investing in? What new information do you have? What new ideas that are revolutionary do you have that you can introduce to a client? What accountability, what value do you offer? And if you can invest in yourself, then you can actually go out and charge $200, $300, $500, $1,000 for the same amount of time. Or another alternative, maybe now you bring an employee in and you still have the $100 an hour clients, but you let that person serve the $100 an hour clients. And now you're serving the $500 an hour clients. And of the $100 an hour clients, you get 50% of that because you're the one that grew the business and he has access to that. So now he's making money. You're making money without having to spend your time, and you're reserving your time for the $500 an hour clients, which you get to keep 100% of. But again, in order to do that, you have to evolve. If you would have asked me to share that scenario with you 7 years ago, I would have had no idea how to even say that, because it wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't even aware that was a thing, but I am now, because I've developed different skill sets. I have accountability from other people. I hire coaches and mentors, and it's got me thinking about things in a new way. And that's why the rich, the ultra rich, even those who just make good income, 100,000, 205, $1 million, they might have an off year where they make less, but guess what? They go right back to where they were before. Why? Because it's the skill set they know. So guys, I really, really want you to close this integrity gap, not only because it's what the world needs, and we can look around and see all sorts of gaps in people's integrity, from our bosses, our neighbors, community members, all the way up to federal leadership. And it's horrible. And it's producing some of the disgusting, despicable results that we've experienced in culture and society today. So not only for that reason, but I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to be confident, because people who are confident and feel good about themselves are the ones who produce results. You're going to lead your family better. You're going to get to work on time. You're going to work harder. You're going to create new ideas. You're going to start new businesses. You're going to put people to work. You're going to serve others in your church congregations or community activities or ecclesiastical services or charitable organizations. It's those people who are confident. And again, it's just a result of doing the work and closing that integrity gap. Guys, if you have questions about this, let me know. Shoot me a message on Instagram, is where I'm most active. So shoot me a message there. And then remember, we have the 30 days to battle ready, orderoman.com/battle ready. That'll get you signed up for that free program. And also we have our legacy event where we talk about these issues and so much more with you and your boys and create a rite of passage experience. orderoman.com/legacy. All right, you guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, take action, close that integrity gap, and become the man you are meant to be.